All right. What's going on? This is Apologetics Night. I'm new to the whole YouTube thing, so bear with me. But I want to talk about a couple things today regarding the angel of the Lord. How the angel of the Lord is God, but the angel of the Lord is not the Father. Um, for that, my name is you could call me Apologetic Knight on here. I'm a catechumen in the Orthodox Church, and been studying, reading a lot since I was young. And as I got older, my eyes kind of brightened up to a lot of the stuff that's going on in the Bible. A lot of connections, a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of things that I missed when I was younger. So I just want to talk about the angel of the Lord. So in chapter 28 of Genesis, right, from verses 10 to 22, Jacob has a dream of the ladder. And there's angels ascending and descending on the ladder, which in verse 12 and 13, 12 is where he actually is having the dream of the ladder. But in 13, it says something interesting. It says, Yahweh stood above it. I am Yahweh, the God of your father, Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the land which you lie, I will give it to you and your seed. Now that's interesting because in John 1:51, Jesus says that you will see the angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man, which is very interesting because that's Jesus right there telling you that he was the Yahweh that the angels were ascending and descending upon. Also, from 16 to 22, that's where Jacob actually wakes up from the dream. And he says that this is the gate of heaven. And I think it's very amazing because this part right here kind of solidifies the future of the Bible, because we learn who the angel is here way back in Genesis, and he's establishing and letting you know who he is. So, and from 16 to 22, he's telling you, Jacob's telling you that he's building a pillar to God, and he calls it Bethel, which is the house of God. Now, if you skip a couple chapters and you go to chapter 31 in Genesis from 11 to 13, the angel of the Lord shows up. And it's actually really amazing because he comes and he tells you in verse 13, in verse 11, I'm sorry, that, in verse 11, the angel comes to Jacob, and Jacob says, here I am. And he's talking about the speckled and striped male goats. And then he says that I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made me a vow. Now rise, leave this land, and return to the land of your kin. So he's basically telling you that he's the God of Bethel. So I think it's very clear that he's claiming to be God, but he's letting you know a distinction that he's not the Father. And I think what solidifies this and makes it even better is if you go to chapter 35. I usually skip 32 where Jacob wrestles with God. But if you go to chapter 35, it says that God said to Jacob, arise and go up to Bethel and live there and make an altar to God, who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. If you look at it, why would God tell him to go to Bethel, where he already was and built a pillar to God, right? And build a pillar to God, but who appeared to him when he fled from his brother Esau. So if God is telling Jacob to build an altar to God, who appeared to him when he fled his brother, then he's making a distinction between two persons that are Yahweh. No, I don't believe that it's the same person, but if you look, it's very clear that God is telling Jacob to build an altar to God. So a lot of times when I talk with like Unitarian people, I try to figure out where does agency come from? Because if God is telling you to build an altar to another God, well, not to another God, but to another person that's called God, then why would he say it in that way? He could have just said, build an altar to me. But he didn't say it that way. And I think it's very important that if you believe that God is one person and he doesn't have a multiplicity or plurality to him, then I think that you're in a lot of trouble, because right here in the three different chapters that I showed, in the first chapter in 28, the house is built, the pillars built, Bethel, the house of God. The angel comes and says in 31, I am the God of Bethel. And in 35, God tells Jacob to go to Bethel and build an altar to God who appeared to him. I think it's very clear, and I think if you can't see that, I would pray and look over it and ask the Spirit to guide you and to see the truth. Um, I'm not here to really bash anybody or anything. I just like to point out things. So back to 28 though, in verse 12, when the angels are ascending and descending, that's Jesus there in John 1:51. I'm just reiterating that he's claiming to be God. Because in verse 13, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh, the God of Abraham and Isaac. And he establishes the promise of Abraham's seed. And there's really no way of getting out of it when you look at it in this context, because it's literally in chronological order. So that's just pretty much it. I don't want to make it too long. This was my first live, so I might have stumbled up on some words. Please forgive me, but I would definitely say go look at these verses and look at it for yourself. So just to reiterate, I was in chapter 28. You could do 10 through 22. Chapter 20, Genesis 28, 10 through 22. Then in Genesis chapter 31, 11 through 13. Genesis 31, 11 through 13. That's the angel saying that he's the God of Bethel. And then the interesting passage is chapter 35, verses 1. And I would definitely say go look at those things. And let me know what you think in the comment section. If you have any, opposition towards it, or any questions or anything, just feel free and write in the comment section, and like and subscribe, and hope you guys have an awesome day. May God bless you all.